Hi, my name is Amanda Pratt. I'm a licensed clinical social worker in the state of Florida and a licensed master social worker in the state of Michigan, also known as the chronic illness therapist. Today I wanted to create a video as part of my coping series about what is coping. I kind of jumped right in and didn't quite explain what coping is. So when we're talking about coping strategies or coping skills, we're referring to the specific efforts that we use, either behavioral or psychological, to master stress and tolerate or even minimize stressful events that happen in our lives. So, two general coping strategies are umbrella terms that have been distinguished. One is problem solving coping, and one is emotion focused coping. So, problem focused coping or problem solving oriented coping strategies are when we try to be active in alleviating or minimizing the stressor. And emotion focused coping is where we focus on our regulation of the emotions that come with a stressor or a problem. And that happens particularly when a problem isn't solvable or it's recurring and difficult to change, as in the case of chronic illness. So when we look at research about coping, what we find is that we tend to use both types of strategies, and the ones that we use the most really depend on our personality and our available resources. So we typically employ problem-focused coping to deal with, again, controllable problems, whereas stressors that aren't as controllable require us to work more on emotion-focused coping. So you may find that if you were suddenly struck with a chronic illness and you've never quite had to employ emotion-focused coping strategies before, you may feel ill-equipped with how to deal with them or how to manage them, and that's totally normal. So that's something that we work on in therapy. The other thing that research tells us is that there's a difference between active or engaged types of coping and avoidant or disengaged types of coping strategies. The active and engaged types of coping strategies tend to lead to better outcomes, and they can be either behavioral or psychological. So we can have active and engaged emotion-focused types of coping strategies that are helpful, and we can have disengaged or passive types of emotion-focused coping strategies that tend to not be helpful. And the same thing with the problem-focused or problem-solving strategies. So one of the things that we've learned are that things that keep us from directly dealing with a stressful event, like denial, for example, or substance use, tend to lead to worse outcomes for us in our health and our mental health. So generally speaking, whether it's behavioral or emotional, using active and engaged forms of coping tend to be better for dealing with stressful life events, and these are the things that we work on building in therapy. So one of the things I tell people when it comes to coping is that there is no right answer as to whether or not the coping strategy that we might be using is healthy. There's no like generic guide for what's right and what's not right. Everything has to be individualized, and context matters. So there are many forms of coping that I go over with my clients where I ask them, how do you use this? And in what circumstances, and what tends to be the outcome when you do use it? And then we can pinpoint and narrow down which coping skills are helpful for them. We can tweak how they use it and when they use it and what circumstances. And the situation matters, the context matters, how you use it, how long you use it, how you recover afterwards. And we all have areas of strength and weakness in our coping. So the good news is that when we have areas of weakness in coping, we can skill build around it, and you can always learn to do better, and you can even learn to use your strengths with intention more often, and that leads to better outcomes in our health, both physical and emotional. Thank you, and I hope that helps you learn what coping skills are and how we can use them. And so I hope you enjoy my coping skill building series. I'll see you in the next video.